Welcome to day 14 of That Painting Show. We have a special guest, and that is Lily, our granddaughter. Want to
Hi.
wave? And now, live from Pine Top, Arizona, it's That Painting Show, starring the Color Queen.
Hello, I'm Beth Zink. Welcome to day 14 of That Painting Show. Today we're going to continue with our barn landscape. But before we begin, Lily, who is today's lucky duck?
Today's lucky duck is Joanne from Canada.
Joanne from Canada. What does she want to know? Joanne says, Beth, I'm painting a sunset and I'm not sure where to put my highlights and shadows on the plants. Well, actually, Joanne, when you're painting a sunset, all the light is behind everything and the foreground is really dark. So if you want to lighten up the plants in the foreground, just make sure that your light source is consistent. Have it be from the left side or the right side, and don't have it be too bright because it's actually, in reality, there wouldn't be any light at all. So just make sure that your light source is consistent. And thanks for asking. So where we left off last time was I'd taken the photograph that we're working from. I had underpainted the sky in the foreground. I laid this photograph down, taped it to the canvas, and put down some transfer paper. Then I took a pencil or a pen and I went around the most important parts of the sketch, just because this is a shortcut. I can do this sketch very easily by myself, but for those of you that cannot, using transfer paper is very helpful. And as long as you're not trying to get a degree from these classes, which I'm sure you're not, it's okay. You can see this is from the transfer paper. These lines here indicating a little hillside in the foreground, and also a couple little trees which are in the background. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to paint the background trees.
Now, what about those cute little trees?
Well, Captain John, I am going to show you how to do it right now. I would normally use a fan brush if I were going to be doing large trees, but instead I'm going to use a little tiny flat brush. I'm going to paint the trunks first. I'm even going to enlarge this one back here. There were a couple in the back here. Put the trunks first. The way I like to do it is I paint plants, bushes, trees the way they grow. Trunk first, then branches, then leaves, then flowers. So now I'm going to take my brush and go back and forth.
By the way, Queenie, your dew is looking really good. You look marvelous.
Oh, thanks, Captain John. You know, I'm back to my Bob Ross wig here. I actually kind of like it.
I think everybody does.
Oh, yeah, we've had some great compliments, that's for sure. And people think that I'm still crazy after all these years. So you can see I'm just taking the little flat brush, rocking it back and forth, trying to create all the branches on these trees. They're very distant, so there's no need for great detail, but you just kind of want to create the sense of some vegetation way, way far away. This one, as you can see, was just a little bit of a tree, and I think just for more interest compositionally, I'm gonna make this one a little bit taller. You know, when you're using a photo for a resource, you don't have to follow it exactly. It's a resource, just think of it that way. It's not like you have to absolutely do it the same way as a photograph. They're references, they're resources. So this just sort of shows us that there are trees back here. I'm gonna even put one right here as a matter of fact. I kind of don't want to end the painting with the edge of that barn. I'm gonna add another one over here. I think compositionally this will be a little more interesting to have a little something else going on here right at the end of the barn. Yeah, I like that.
Looks good.
Thank you. Okay, so we normally work top to bottom, left to right, back to front. The next,
So I have a question.
okay.
What color will you be using to show the rust on the
Oh,
barn
the rust
roof?
on the barns here. Actually, you know, I love to amp up the color. So although this is probably what we call burnt sienna with white, or excuse me, burnt umber with white. Burnt umber with white will give us kind of a chocolatey brown color. I'm using a flat brush and I'm taking it and following the contour. See how the line, this is tin, and it's a tin roof, and it actually has ridges. So these lines are gonna follow, and it looks like there's more rust at this end of the barn than there is at the other.
Well, I have another question, but I can answer it for you.
Okay.
Why are barns painted red for the most part?
Well, why don't you do that while I'm painting? That would be
Alrighty.
really good.
Well, rust was plentiful on farms, and because it killed fungi and moss that might grow on barns, and it was very effective as a sealant, and it turned the mixture red in color. So when paint became more available, many people chose red paint for their barns in honor of tradition.
Well, a little bit of history. That's always fun to throw into our show. Good research.
Thank you.
Captain John.
Thank you.
So you can see this flat brush, and it's kind of a dry brush technique. I don't have a lot of paint on my brush. I want to make sure I cover up that little bit of blue that's under there. Back here, this one doesn't have any rust on it, but you know what? I want to make it rusty. So I'm going to make it just as rusty as that one in the foreground. My strokes have to follow the contour. Boy, that's looking better, isn't it?
Sure is.
Okay. I'm also going to put this little barn back in here. He kind of got lost. That little tiny, oh, it's actually probably another shed. You know, farms have lots of outbuildings, sheds and barns. Got a little bit more detail here too. I'm also going to add some of these little boards that you can see. See, I want to add, let you see some of the actual lumber that makes up the barn by using the brush but holding it this way, so you're getting a narrower stroke. And these are a little bit more highlighted here. There's a shadow from the roof, but the lower part is lighter. Just that little bit of light helps you see the barn is in shadow. I'm going to use a different brush real quickly here and put this shadow, make this shadow more pronounced. the overhang of this roof creates a shadow that comes down, well, maybe part way. See that now, how that casts that shadow?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's an open door right here. And maybe there's another opening down here. So we're starting to get the sense of where the shadows are being cast. That's getting pretty good. You know, I think that's as far as I want to go today, because I don't want to rush, and I want to make sure that you understand all the techniques and all the steps through the painting. So that's the instructional part of today. Next is we have a super sale. Well, we always have a super sale, but I don't know if any of you have been to our new website, but we have had a new website designed, and it's absolutely fabulous. It's the old one was 5 years old, which in dog years is probably 35 years old. Anyway, we have lots of products that have sale pricing, and it's noted on the site, including things like our cute little tiles. This is some of our mountain art tiles that are 25% off. So go to our new website, check it out, and also the corn chowder recipe, which was inspired by the barn painting, Captain John's corn chowder recipe, is available, but only if you request it. So go to the contact page, and when it says, what would you like to say, just say, hey, I want Captain John's corn chowder recipe. Okay? Next, pearls of wisdom. You may or may not know that these actually are my great-grandmother's pearls. And I like to put them on in honor of her and say, you know, I always like famous quotes, funny quotes. I just enjoy motivational things. So this one is kind of a funny one, and it's not attributed to anyone. It says, you can't always control who walks into your life, but you can control which window to throw them out. Anyway, love it. Cheers. Thanks for joining us, and stay safe. Be well.